Ever feel like your complaints against a sketchy landlord or a deceptive business just vanish into a black hole? Well, think again. Let's dive right into this because this explainer is going to prove that your voice actually matters. Recently, a bunch of ordinary tenant complaints sparked a massive, multi-agency task force investigation into a company called Blue Sky Management. We are talking about an investigation covering 71 residential buildings and over 1,150 dwelling units right in New York City. And the trigger for this whole massive legal action? Everyday people simply filling out administrative paperwork. So today, we're going to decode exactly how you can file a complaint with the New York Attorney General, transforming your unresolved issues into documented, actionable files. Look at this direct quote straight from the official assurance of discontinuance regarding that Blue Sky Management case. Because tenants actually took the time to officially complain, the state uncovered a whole pattern of unpermitted, unsafe construction, a severe lack of proper maintenance, and frequent interruptions to essential services like heat and hot water. So the really crucial takeaway here is this. Your individual complaint can literally be the missing puzzle piece that helps authorities uncover repeated or persistent fraudulent, illegal, or deceptive conduct that's affecting hundreds or even thousands of other people. All right, here is our roadmap for this explainer. We'll be covering 1. The Attorney General's role, 2. Choosing the right form, 3. The step-by-step filing process, 4. Pro tips and best practices, 5. FAQs and next steps, and finally, 6. A legal disclaimer. Let's kick things off with Section 1, the Attorney General's role. You know, the scope of the Attorney General's power is just absolutely vast. The Office of the Attorney General, or the OAG, isn't just out there prosecuting violent crimes. They're actually the ultimate problem solver for us, the public. Their core mission is enforcing laws that protect consumers, tenants, patients, and workers. They can step in to act as a mediator for individual disputes like, say, helping you get a refund for a totally defective product. But they also use these individual complaints to track and prosecute major systemic abuses, whether it's investigating retail fraud, going after a company for systemic wage theft, or taking on severe workplace discrimination in the restaurant or construction industries. The OEG heavily relies on your documented complaints to identify exactly where the bad actors are hiding. Moving right along to Section 2, choosing the right form. So the whole system of OAG complaints is highly specialized. For example, if you've got a dispute over a retail purchase, streaming services, or a faulty warranty, you absolutely need the consumer frauds complaint form. But if your landlord improperly withheld your deposit for a rent-stabilized unit, you've got to use the specific rent security complaint form, which is going to ask for granular details like your exact lease commencement date. If you accidentally send a systemic wage theft issue to the Consumer Frauds Bureau instead of the Labor Bureau, or if you route an investment broker misconduct complaint to the wrong office, it's going to cause some serious bureaucratic delays. Getting it to the correct office of record on day one is absolutely essential. All right, Section 3, the step-by-step filing process. Let's break down the actual mechanics of preparing and submitting your grievance. Step 1, you must attempt direct resolution. This is a mandatory filing phase, folks. The OAG explicitly requires you to make a documented attempt to resolve the issue directly with the business or individual first. So keep solid records of those emails or letters. Step 2, gather clear evidence. You need to compile complete chronological details of the entire transaction. And step 3 is completing and submitting the specific form we just talked about. Notice the distinct headers on these official documents, so you easily recognize them when you're downloading them online. You've got the Consumer Frauds form and the Investor Protection Bureau form, both clearly bearing the official State of New York seals. Now, if you're submitting paper versions of these, the OAG strictly requires that they be typed or printed clearly in dark ink. I'm serious, incomplete or unclear forms will literally be returned right back to you, so take your time and make sure your contact details, phone numbers, and addresses are perfectly legible. Next up, Section 4, Pro Tips and Best Practices. Okay, I'm going to rapid fire through these crucial rules because honestly, they're the difference between a successful filing and getting rejected. First, always redact sensitive personal data. Black out your social security numbers and bank account routing numbers before submitting. Second, and this is a huge warning, never send your original documents. Only send clear photocopies of your receipts, contracts, and screenshots. Keep the originals safely tucked away for your own personal records. Third, observe strict statutory deadlines. Programs like the Used Car Lemon Law arbitration have very specific timeframes for filing, and if you miss them, the OAG simply can't help you. Finally, understand jurisdictional limits. If your claim actually belongs to a different state or federal regulator, the OAG will have to reject it, so definitely double-check their guidelines before you hit submit. Which brings us to Section 5, FAQs and next steps. So, this is without a doubt the most common and, frankly, most anxiety inducing question we see from filers. You've gathered all the evidence, you've mailed the packet, and now crickets. How long are you actually supposed to wait? Well, the magic number is 3. Complainants are explicitly requested to wait a minimum of 3 weeks before asking for a status update. See, once your complaint is submitted, it enters an internal administrative queue where it has to be read by an attorney or a consumer frauds representative. If you start calling or submitting status requests before those 3 weeks are up, it actually bogs down the entire system and slows down the initial review process for everyone. Patience is definitely key here. If you need a bit of extra help, here are the direct resources. For general intake supports, or if you need physical forms mailed to you, you can call the General OAG helpline at 1-800-771-7755. There's also a dedicated TDD line for the deaf and hard of hearing at 1-800-788-9898. If your specific issue is regarding systemic wage theft or safety, call the Labor Bureau directly. And for reports of systemic housing or public discrimination, the Civil Rights Bureau has its own dedicated line. Please don't hesitate to use these numbers to ensure you're routing your complaint exactly where it needs to go. And finally, Section 6, Legal Disclaimer. Quick reminder here, folks. Everything we're covering in this explainer is strictly for educational purposes. We're here to demystify these bureaucratic procedures and make the whole process a bit more approachable, but this absolutely does not constitute formal legal advice. Every single situation is unique, and you should always consult professional legal counsel to discuss the specifics of your individual case before taking any sort of legal action. So I'll leave you with this question. Are you ready to hold bad actors accountable? As we saw with that massive blue sky management case at the very beginning, your complaints have real, undeniable power. They aren't just pieces of paper vanishing into the void. They are the foundation of major task force investigations that protect thousands of New Yorkers. You now have the roadmap, you know the exact forms to look for, and you've got the best practices to make sure your complaint is actually heard. Don't let your unresolved issues just fade away. Use the tools and knowledge you've just gained and take direct action today. Thanks for joining us for this explainer, and we'll see you next time.